Recently, a top management staff of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) raised an alarm that the country's revenue may come under severe threat with the rapid expansion of shale oil exploration in the United States of America. A recent study conducted by Leonardo Magura, a former head of strategy of Italian oil giant Eni, revealed that a boom in shale will make the U.S. the largest oil producer in the world in 2017. PricewaterhouseCoopers also says in a report it released in February this year that shale oil, is fast gaining ground in the U.S. among consumers. The report specifically says, quote, "It would revolutionize global energy markets, providing greater long-term security at lower cost for many countries." Now, the question is, how does all of this concern us? The answer is simple. Nigeria depends almost entirely on oil for its revenue. So if the price of oil goes down, especially below our budgetary benchmark, then we are in serious trouble. Besides, the United States is one of the largest consumers of Nigeria's oil. So if demand from the U.S. falls dramatically, then that also would spell trouble for us here in Nigeria. Also imagine what would happen if the U.S. decides to export its cheap shale oil to markets or territories that Nigeria supplies. The answer is pretty obvious. Now, to find out how serious this issue is, I asked two experts for their opinions. Listen to what they had to say.
The scenario is very frightening. It's very frightening because the economy is very, very vulnerable. It's like an economy that is standing on one leg. And in this situation, that one leg, which is oil and gas, is being threatened. And you can imagine if the one leg is cut off, you can imagine what will happen to the economy. It's a very frightening scenario, and I'm not sure whether we are actually ready for the challenges that will come out of it. Even as we speak, you will notice that even the oil prices are beginning to decline. The CBN has been battling seriously to stabilize the exchange rate. The exchange rate, the Naira, now is under serious pressure. And you can imagine the kind of implication that will have for cost of goods and services in the economy, the threats to foreign reserves that we have, and even the threat to budget implementation. And if the situation continues that way, I'm not sure we'll be ready, we'll be able to actually survive the situation.
Yes, we are under threat, but the threat is not a problem. The threat is out of concern because we are not investing in our future. The Minister of Finance raised the alarm one time that we no longer have monopoly of the cash crop that seemed to be sacrosanct to Nigeria or some privileged clubs. Today you have oil in Gambia, for example. Lagos State has discovered oil. So that will add more to our strategic reserve and eventually lead to a glut. Kenya has discovered oil. The Lake Victoria axis, there is oil. There will be oil in Maiduguri and those Trans-Sahel region because they are the same belt with Libya. So there will be oil in those axes. Saudi Arabia will never stop pumping, and they will keep pumping as long as America says keep pumping to reduce the price. America has always produced more oil than Nigeria. The new discoveries will only make her to be more self-sufficient than ever. And don't forget, we still import refined petroleum products. So, what will happen is that the demand for our oil will be less, the prices will fall, our exclusive cash crop, because oil still forms over 90% of our national income, will be reduced. Then we will have a problem. We may not be able or ever be able to meet our budget deficit. And we are not growing other sectors. For example, our electricity is at 1,500 megahertz. So the vision of Nigeria being at par with some developed countries in 2020, I think it's a mirage. And if we are not producing, and we are not exporting, and we are still exporting products at its crude stage, I don't see us getting anywhere.
But the question is, what should Nigeria be doing right now to stave off this coming catastrophe? Listen again to what the experts had to say.
We may not be able to meet our immediate revenue target.
No need now.
But don't forget, Nigeria has people. This is a country that there was once a Chinua Achebe. This is a country that had Njoku Obi. This is a country that has Wole Soyinka. This is a country that has Zik and Awo and Sardauna Sokoto. We will then reinvent ourselves. This is a country that has gold, aquamarine, tantalite, magnesium, uranium, tin, columbite. This is a country that used to export palm oil, palm kernel. Don't forget that we gave Malaysia the seedlings that made them popular today. And we are importing palm oil today from Malaysia. We will reinvent ourselves. We will now then sit backwards and go back to the drawing board, unfortunately, and said, hey, gentlemen, where do we go wrong? Everybody has oil now. Nobody is buying oil. Where do we have a competitive advantage? What can we do to save Nigeria? Maybe for the first time, instead of me, we'll be thinking of us. I think maybe we'll be more sensible, because everybody that has a company today is in oil services. Whether you are delivering diesel from point A to point B, you are in oil services. If you are selling motor oil, you are in oil services. If you are selling only diesel, you are in oil services. Maybe we have to grow to a point where this thing is found in everybody's backyard, so it is no longer relevant. Then we can go back to the drawing board.
What we should be doing, actually, what we should have done, actually, is even more important. But there's very little, as to what we can do about the past. What we should be doing now is to just make sure that we stabilize the oil and gas sector. We encourage the investors that are willing to invest. We encourage the investors that are still on grant by ensuring that there is security in the Niger Delta, by ensuring that protection of lives and property is assured, by also ensuring that there is clarity and clarity of policy. The petroleum industry bill, we need to actually fast-track it, so that at least those who are investing in the oil and gas sector, we have a very clear horizon, policy-wise, to be able to plan and to be able to invest. But clearly, the shock will be very, very profound on the economy, and we cannot run away from it. This is the time actually to be diversifying the economy, to rely less on oil, and to spend less on consumption. Because the tragedy of the Nigerian economy is that all the money we have made from oil, we have been spending on consumption. Spending to fund some very bogus political structures. Spending to fund corruption, So we have really nothing to show in terms of concrete investment. Unlike what you have in other oil-producing countries like the Middle East, for instance. Whatever they had from the oil sector, they actually invested. We don't have infrastructure, we don't have power. Even in the oil sector, even the infrastructure to actually develop the oil sector, like refineries, like the petrochemicals, we don't have them. So it's really a very big tragedy. And unless our political leaders realize this, and unfortunately they don't realize this, I think the future is likely to be very challenging.
Well, let's just hope those in authority are doing something about this and acting fast, because time, unfortunately, is not in our hands. That's it on Digi 360. We thank you very much for watching. I am Deji Badamasi. I'll see you next time.